Usually when we think of 18th century historical art, there's this expectation of profound seriousness.
Yeah, very stiff, very formal.
Exactly. You picture these people standing rigidly next to a globe or like a horse, just staring blankly. They're heavily clothed in dark fabrics, and it's essentially the equivalent of looking at a historical LinkedIn profile.
That's a perfect way to describe it. It's highly curated propaganda, really.
Yeah, it's rigid. It's all about signaling competence and projecting authority to anyone looking at it.
Because formal portraiture of that era was specifically designed to secure legacies. And, to a modern eye, it often feels deeply sterile. We tend to view history as this dignified, slow-moving procession of very serious events.
Because that's what the official art wants us to believe, right?
Exactly. But then you step into the world of the French Rococo.
Oh, and suddenly all of that rigid, formal portraiture is just thrown completely out the window. We're looking at a visual landscape that is, for all intents and purposes, an 18th century paparazzi shot.
It really is.
And today, we're doing a deep dive into the ultimate example of this for you. We're decoding Jean-Honoré Fragonard's 1767 masterpiece, The Swing, or, if you prefer the original French, Les Arts Heureux de l'Escapolette.
Which translates so wonderfully to the happy accidents of the swing.
Such a great title. We are unpacking this single breathtaking piece of art today because, at first glance, it just looks like a pretty innocuous picture of a girl in a garden.
It looks harmless.
Right. But when you really study this 81 by 65 centimeter canvas, you find this scandalous, symbol-packed snapshot of high society. It is a tiny painting that basically holds the weight of an entire cultural collapse.
It really does. And just to establish our baseline here, this painting, which currently hangs in the Wallace Collection in London, is the definitive symbol of the Rococo era.
For those who might not know, how would you define Rococo?
Well, think of it as a period defined by intense refinement, utter frivolity, and this very overt, unapologetic sensuality. It was basically the visual language of the French aristocracy right before their world was violently turned upside down.
And this kind of overt visual rebellion against the serious moralistic art of the past didn't just happen by accident.
No, not at all.
It required a client who was actively trying to flout the establishment. So the origin of this painting starts with a very wealthy baron who wanted a tribute to his mistress.
Right, but he didn't actually go to Fragonard first.
He didn't. He originally pitched this highly specific, highly inappropriate concept to another prominent painter, Gabriel François Doyen.
And Doyen wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. He passed on the job immediately.
Wait, I have to ask about Doyen's refusal here. Did he really reject this commission purely on moral grounds, or was he just terrified of the political fallout?
It's a fair question.
Because it seems incredibly hard to believe a working artist would turn down what was likely a massive paycheck just because he was feeling a bit prudish.
Well, that is the crucial context behind the commission. It wasn't about hurt sensibilities. It was about career survival. Doyen was a respected historical painter, He aimed for royal commissions and church patronage.
Oh, so painting smut would ruin his brand.
Exactly. Painting an identifiable baron's mistress in a highly compromising position could instantly alienate the powerful institutions that paid his bills.
Makes sense. But Jean-Honoré Fragonard steps in and takes the commission.
He did. Fragonard recognized a totally different opportunity. He knew that while the church might balk, leaning into the scandal could actually elevate his status within a specific, extremely lucrative aristocratic circle.
It's basically like a modern-day billionaire commissioning a wildly inappropriate, highly produced Instagram photo just to flex his secret affair to his inner circle.
That's spot on. Fragonard was betting his entire career on the private market.
And that private market was uniquely primed for this exact type of imagery, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. To understand why a baron would commission a painting of his mistress in the first place, we have to look at the aristocratic marriage market of the 18th century.
Right, because it was completely different from today.
Completely. In the upper echelons of society, marriages were absolutely not about love. They were strategic business transactions designed to unite family dynasties, concentrate power, and merge vast amounts of wealth.
So romance wasn't even a factor?
Not at all. The primary, often sole duty of the couple was to secure a legitimate heir. Once that descent was assured, it was entirely common expected, even for the husband and the wife to live completely separate sexual lives.
So taking lovers was basically treated as a standard Tuesday for the nobility.
Yes, exactly.
But this wasn't happening in a vacuum. The Third Estate, the peasantry, and the working class, they were watching this happen. and they were dealing with bread shortages and crushing taxes.
Yeah, they were starving.
Right, so they didn't view rampant adultery as some sophisticated social arrangement. They viewed it as moral rot.
The moral disconnect between the classes was staggering, and it was actively building the tension that would eventually fuel the French Revolution.
The working class saw the aristocracy as fundamentally corrupt, right?
Yes. They saw them draining the nation's wealth to fund lavish estates and secret affairs, while commoners literally starved in the streets. But inside the Baron's insulated world, this painting wasn't a shameful secret.
No, it was a flex.
Exactly. It was a clever inside joke, a badge of honor to be celebrated behind closed doors among peers who shared the exact same lifestyle.
So since this commission was a secret celebration of infidelity, Fragonard had a complex mechanical problem to solve on the canvas. He had to design a composition that literally painted the lover's perspective while keeping the official partner in the dark.
He did, and it's brilliant.
Let's actually look at the geometry of this painting together. Right in the dead center, dominating the canvas, is a young woman mid-swing wearing this billowing, frothy, absurdly voluminous pink dress.
She looks like a giant floating meringue.
She really does. And she is suspended in the middle of this lush, incredibly overgrown, misty green garden.
And notice how the trees aren't neatly pruned like a traditional French estate. They look like they are almost pulsing with life. The branches are twisting and curling everywhere, creating this heavy, oppressive canopy over the scene.
Right, and when you look to the right, sitting on a marble bench, and mostly hidden in the shadows, is an older, smiling man.
Based on the narrative the Baron requested, this represents the husband.
And he's the one actually pulling the ropes, providing the kinetic energy to keep the swing moving.
Fragonard's placement of the husband is a masterclass in visual irony. The older man is doing the physical labor to keep the swing in motion, relegated to the shadows, completely oblivious to the fact that he is actively facilitating his wife's affair.
Because down on the lower left, hidden in those blooming bushes, is the young lover.
Exactly.
The arc of the swing places the young woman directly over him, putting him in this highly voyeuristic position where he is looking straight up her skirts, and the lighting emphasizes this dynamic completely.
It acts almost like a literal theater spotlight.
Yeah, the husband is swallowed by the dark woods, but the woman and the lover in the bushes are bathed in this ethereal, glowing light piercing through the leaves.
The lighting draws a distinct, impenetrable boundary around the lovers. It creates a private world within the frame that the husband cannot access. And notice how nature itself seems to be conspiring with them.
Oh, because the overgrown wild vegetation is what successfully hides the intruder from the husband's view.
Precisely.
Is the wildness of the garden meant to be a direct physical manifestation of the wildness of their unchecked passions?
Oh, absolutely. In the context of Rococo art, nature is never just a passive backdrop. It is an active participant in the narrative.
So the environment reflects their mindset.
Yes. The untamed garden is a direct reflection of human desire breaking free from rigid social constraints. The fact that the lover is literally reclining in a bed of blooming flowers is a deliberate, highly charged choice.
Right, he's basically rolling around in a rose bush.
Fragonard is using that unkempt environment to tell you that these characters have abandoned societal rules and surrendered completely to their natural, primal instincts.
So the basic composition sets up this dramatic love triangle, but the true genius of the swing lies in the psychological details. Fragonard scattered hidden Easter eggs throughout the frame to constantly wink at the viewer.
Let's start with the sculpture on the left side of the canvas, hovering right above the lover in the bushes.
The little stone angel.
Exactly. It's a classical statue of Cupid, the god of desire. But instead of drawing a bow, he has his finger pressed firmly to his lips, explicitly asking for silence.
He's acting as the bouncer for their affair.
He really is, and it is actually a direct reference to a very famous real-world sculpture by Etienne Maurice Falconet called Menacing Cupid.
Oh wow, I didn't know it was a real statue.
Yeah, so by placing this specific, recognizable statue here, Fragonard transforms it into a monument to their secret. It's a literal shh to the audience.
And right beneath this silent Cupid, the lover has a look of absolute pure earthly rapture on his face.
Oh, he's mesmerized.
He looks as though he has just received a divine revelation,
Right.
but obviously a purely terrestrial, fleshly one. He looks like he just won the lottery.
He definitely does. And the young woman on the swing is staring right back at him, entirely locked in the private exchange.
But my absolute favorite detail, the one that makes this a brilliant piece of visual comedy, is on the other side of the painting.
The dog.
Yes, on the bottom right, Right in front of the oblivious older man pulling the ropes, there is a tiny, white little dog yapping its head off.
This is where Fragonard is openly mocking classical art traditions. Historically, dogs represent fidelity. You know, the root of the name Fido is the Latin word for faithful.
Oh, right.
Yeah, in Renaissance and Baroque portraits, a dog sitting calmly at a woman's feet meant she was a loyal, dutiful wife.
So here, the universal symbol of marital fidelity is acting as a literal guard dog, sounding the alarm about the adultery happening 2 feet away.
Yeah.
And the husband is just smiling, pulling the rope, completely ignoring the warning. It's hilarious. But we have to talk about the focal point of the entire piece.
The shoe.
The flying shoe. As the woman swings forward, the momentum causes her to kick her left leg high up into the air, and her delicate little pink shoe flies off her foot, suspended in midair above the wild garden.
That flying shoe is the anchor of the entire painting's energy.
I was looking at this, and it's almost like the Cinderella story, but entirely inverted.
Oh, how so?
Well, instead of accidentally losing a shoe while running away in a panic to eventually find a prince, she is intentionally kicking her shoe off to tease the lover she already has hiding in the bushes.
That's a great observation.
She isn't a victim of circumstance, you know. She is fully in control of the game.
It is an act of total playful agency. In the 18th century, the exposure of a woman's ankle and foot was considered intensely erotic.
Really? Just an ankle?
Oh, yes. So kicking off the shoe is a gesture of shedding inhibition. It's a literal and metaphorical loosening of garments, signaling her willingness to participate in the affair.
But that flying shoe represents something much deeper historically, too, because of where it is in space. It captures the exact apex of the swing, the absolute highest possible point of the arc.
Yes. Fragonard has frozen the very millisecond of maximum elevation. The swing has gone as high as kinetic energy will take it.
And we all know how gravity works.
Right. A split second after this painted moment, she will reach 0 velocity, and she will start falling backward, right back toward her husband in the shadows.
Wow.
It is a second of erotic rapture that is voluptuous, fleeting, and incredibly fragile.
That is such a profound metaphor for the era itself. It's a literal and societal pendulum. The French aristocracy was swinging as high as it possibly could into indulgence, wealth, and unchecked frivolity.
They really were there at the absolute apex of their power and excess.
Which means, purely by the laws of cultural physics, they are destined to swing violently back the other way.
And that cultural backlash was swift, severe, and deeply intellectual. The Enlightenment thinkers, philosophers like Denis Diderot began weaponizing this specific brand of art against the nobility.
How so?
Well, Diderot actively campaigned for serious art that highlighted human nobility, virtue, and civic duty.
Okay, but how did they weaponize a painting of a girl kicking off a shoe?
By holding it up as undeniable proof of the aristocracy's moral rot. Thinkers pointed to Rococo art and argued, look at what our leaders value. Look at what they spend the nation's wealth on frivolous, deceitful smut.
Wow, they really went after it.
They did. They used these paintings to argue that the ruling class lacked the moral fortitude and seriousness required to govern a nation.
So art critique became political critique.
Exactly. This philosophical demand directly paved the way for the neoclassical movement, where art became rigid, heroic, and deeply moralistic again. The Rococo era's days were numbered. The second paintings, like the swing, became the defining image of the upper class.
And the cultural pendulum didn't just swing back in the art world. It swung back politically, and it swung back with the guillotine.
Yes, it did.
The aftermath for the people who actually bought and enjoyed these paintings was deadly.
The provenance of the swing reads like a casualty list of the French Revolution. The first recorded owner we have is a man named François-Marie Ménage de Pressigny, who was an aristocrat and a prominent tax collector.
And if there was one thing you did not want to be in late 18th century Paris, it was a wealthy tax collector.
Definitely not. In 1794, during the height of the Reign of Terror, Ménage de Pressigny was sent to the guillotine.
Just wow.
Yeah. The revolutionary government systematically seized the property of the executed nobles, and the swing was confiscated as state property.
Just imagine that staggering contrast for a second. The streets of Paris are literally running with blood, the monarchy is collapsing, and sitting in a dark evidence room somewhere is this frothy, pink, impossibly light painting of a girl playing keep-away with her shoe.
It's surreal.
It's wild that it survived at all, when so many symbols of aristocratic wealth were burned or destroyed.
It survived by passing through the hands of various aristocrats who managed to navigate the political turmoil, eventually being bought at a Paris auction in 1865 by Lord Hertford.
And that's how it ultimately ended up in London.
Exactly.
Its physical survival is incredible, but what really fascinates me is how this specific piece of 18th century aristocratic inside joke smut has become completely ubiquitous in modern pop culture.
It really is everywhere.
It has transcended its original context entirely. I mean, we've seen it referenced in that 1920 William Carlos Williams poem, Portrait of a Lady, and even recently in a music video by Mexican singer Gloria Trevi.
Yes, it pops up in the most unexpected places.
And another brilliant example of this evolution is from 2001 when the British-Nigerian artist Yinka Shonibare created a physical, life-size, three-dimensional installation called The Swing after Fragonard.
That piece is so powerful.
It really is haunting. He reconstructs the exact pose of the woman on the swing, but he uses his signature African wax-printed fabrics to make the voluminous dress.
Right.
But the detail that hits you like a freight train is that the mannequin on the swing is completely headless.
It forces a violent collision of historical contexts. Shonibare uses the headless figure to evoke the guillotine, the literal fate of the painting's original owner.
Right.
But by using African fabrics, he is directly confronting the colonial wealth and imperialism that subsidized the leisure and frivolity of the European aristocracy. He takes a painting about a private affair and turns it into a sharp critique of global exploitation.
It completely recontextualizes the wealth on display. And yet, simultaneously, the painting also exists on the complete opposite end of the pop culture spectrum.
You're thinking of the Disney movie.
Yes. In the 2013 Disney animated movie Frozen, Princess Anna is running through the castle art gallery, singing about how excited she is for the gates to open.
For the first time in forever.
That's right. Exactly. And she literally leaps up and poses in front of a massive version of the swing. She perfectly mimics the girl kicking her shoe off.
It is deeply ironic. You have a Disney princess, the ultimate symbol of wide-eyed innocence, blissfully dancing in front of a painting that is fundamentally about secret adultery, and a lover looking up her skirt.
I know. Why does that work, though? How does a symbol of aristocratic adultery become a backdrop for naive Disney innocence without causing massive outrage from audiences?
Because the visual language Fragonard used, the upward momentum, the bright pastel colors, the explosion of light, the feeling of weightlessness, it just transcends the narrative context.
So we just respond to the vibe.
Basically, yeah. To a modern audience unburdened by 18th century French politics or Rococo symbolism, the image just reads as pure, unadulterated joy. The sheer brilliance of the composition outlived the scandal it was created to depict.
That is fascinating. It really forces you to look at the mechanisms of history, not as a series of dry facts, but as these deeply human, messy, and complicated moments frozen in time.
It really does.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive to decode this incredible piece of art. For anyone listening, I highly encourage you to go online and find a high-resolution image of the swing. Zoom in on the canvas. Find the barking dog.
Look for the shushing Cupid.
Yes. Look at the way the light filters through those overgrown trees. Because while the original owners are long gone, the painting itself still has a question for anyone who looks at it today. So, I will leave you to think about this.
When you, the modern audience, stand in front of the swing, who are you in the painting? Are you the oblivious figure in the background, comfortably sitting in the shadows, totally unaware of the hidden realities and the complex, messy truths playing out right in front of you? Or are you the lover, hidden in the bushes, being led in on a beautiful, secret revelation that the rest of the world cannot see?